Hello, welcome back to Farzan's Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with Suzerain. So last time out, we dealt with women's rights, kept the gendarmerie under the control of the Ministry of Defense, and decided to vaccinate our populace against polio. So today we're going to pick it up here by attending the anniversary of the Ism incident. After making a stop in Deir to meet with the governor of Berger, Felix Braun, we finally arrived in the ancient walled city of Erzran. More than 2 decades ago, the city gained particular importance for the Bludish people due to the Ism incident, which was the reason for our visit. It was the anniversary of the Ism incident and the death of Watani Ashraf. The event took place in the aptly named Ism Square, just several blocks away from the site of the tragic Ism incident, which currently lays under Lake Seoul, together with the ruins of the sunken city. We drove in the presidential Qiddiya as we entered the city's old paved streets between its rundown buildings. Our convoy could barely fit the narrow streets, disrupting local traffic and creating a noisy chaos in this normally tranquil city. Passersby looked upon us with concern as we drove towards the square.
I must say, this was a good decision, sir. This will help ease the tensions.
I sure hope so.
If we play our cards right, I am certain. We're almost there. I can hear the crowd.
I heard the chants and shouting from outside, Lucy leaning closer to the window, listening to their voices.
They are telling us to go back where we came from.
We approached the large crowd that assembled in the square. There were probably at least 10,000 people. Most of them were yelling profanities and obscenities at me. As our convoy slowed down, a young bluish man ran in front of our vehicle and spat on the window I was looking out from. Alright. So this whole story beat is potentially make or break for this playthrough, so we've got to play this right. So we don't want to arrest the guy because we don't want to rile the crowds up anymore. So I did not do anything. Our vehicle came to a stop. My driver exited the vehicle and opened the door for me. We were greeted by Mansoon Leek. He wore a coat over his suit, which was marked with the red and turquoise stripes of the Bludish movement's flag. He moved forward to greet us.
Welcome to Erzran, Mr. President.
Alright, we shook hands and I raised his hand in a display of unity. Some within the crowd yelled at us in Bludish.
Mr. Leek.
Mr. Galot, welcome. Shall we move into the sanctuary then?
Let's go.
We started making our way into the Erzran sanctuary, which stood at the end of the square. A much smaller replica of the arch sanctuary in Dia, this building emanated a mystical aura due to its age and its blackened walls. We entered the building through the ornamented large metal gates. As we walked, the noise of the crowd started to fade out. Everyone started to get quiet for the ceremony. Thousands of candles were burning inside the sanctuary, one for each person that died in Ism. The red candle at the center is for Watani Ashraf. Mansoon gestured towards the candles. Okay, so the guide says to pick up a non-red candle. So let's just pick up a candle. I picked up one of the candles. He picked up the candle for Ashraf and started walking out. Many others followed suit, including us. The atmosphere outside had completely changed. The crowd was now completely silent. We slowly walked towards Ashraf's grave. On the way, hundreds of people joined with us. Someone from the crowd shouted at me, breaking the silence. Don't mock the dead, you racist dog. You're defiling that candle in your hands. I ignored the man and kept walking. When we arrived, he pointed at a huge standing torch above the grave. Okay, and I just leave the candle. I put the candle next to the torch. I turned around and realized the sheer amount of people who were following us. They were all looking at me, waiting to hear what I would say. Okay, so let's see what we're doing here. Brothers and sisters. We are here to mourn those who tragically lost their lives in Ism. Let's see. We're supposed to acknowledge massacre is wrong and that innocent people died. And we're here to make amends. So, let's try this one. They're brave men and women who only wanted to protect their land. I assure you, this administration will do its absolute best to mend the wounds. An old man from the crowd yelled, "Bullshit." It says to just ignore this guy, right? Yeah, avoid responding, so pay no attention. I paid no attention. See, we are all the same before God. Remember the words, love thy brothers and thy sisters. Mistakes were made in the past. Innocent people with ism paid the price, but we cannot let the past divide us. Yeah, let's go with that. Responsibility falls on our shoulders because we don't have anyone but each other. Just go with that one. Morning will come. There's no reaction from the crowd, only silence. Cool, so that, I'm pretty sure, is the right reaction that we want. Man soon leaning closer to me. I must admit, Mr. President, that was a good speech. I hope the crowd thinks the same. He extended his hand to me for a handshake. Alright, this says to hug him, so let's hug him. Instead of going for the handshake, I spread out my arms and hugged him. Suddenly, the whole crowd started clapping. Thank you for this, Mr. President. I don't think the people of Erzran will ever forget this. You have become the first and only president who is brave enough to come to Erzran and pay respects to the for the ism victims. I hope this will be the start of a new era. Thank you. Lucien rushed near me.
Sir, it's time to go.
And we started making our way back to the convoy.
Well done, sir. This will prove very useful in the upcoming elections.
Yeah, time will tell. Lucien bowed his head. We entered our vehicles and started making our way back home from Erzran. Perfect. Okay, I think that went exactly the way we wanted it to. But I guess we'll find out. So let's head to Holsword for a briefing on the current political situation. I walked to the White Room with a cup of coffee in my hand. My vice president has scheduled a meeting on the current political situation. I opened the door and entered the room. Lucien immediately stood up.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I want to provide you some quick updates on the current political situation.
He pulled out a few documents from the briefcase and laid them on the table.
Mr. Hall has reported to me that he's almost finished drafting his new plan for the economy. He said he wanted to solidify the plan before it's presented to you. He has scheduled a meeting soon to go over our options.
Simon can pull it off, I'm sure. He's never failed us before.
Mr. Hall is exceptionally skilled. I'm sure he'll deliver as well. Moving on.
He flipped the page.
The changes you ordered to the Supreme Court have now been implemented. The members you replaced were not happy, to put it mildly. The court has been entirely reshuffled. This is the beginning of a new era and the end of the old guard's tyranny. The court's new Chief Justice is mostly an unknown figure in politics. His name is Ovid Gresser. He is a seasoned veteran with a career in law spanning more than 30 years.
Can he be trusted?
He appears to have a refreshing lack of political motivations. I am hopeful.
He closed the folder and put away the documents.
That is all for the court's updates. Moving on. Next, it's time to talk about our election prospects.
Lucien took out a new set of documents. I caught a glimpse of colorful charts and graphs.
I just received the results of a voter poll, commissioned by Peter Vection shortly before his, departure. To put it in plain language, it's not promising, bad even. The USP stands to lose up to 20% of the vote compared to 1953.
Okay, so we should be okay. I'm not worried. We've still got time to win them over.
A year isn't a very long time, Mr. President, but yes, we can definitely gain more votes if we think strategically. Fortunately, your new Vice President also happens to be an excellent strategist.
Horrible drinking buddy, though.
Alcohol dulls my reflexes. You should consider giving it up yourself.
Lucien shuffled some pages around.
Looking at the demographics of the voters polled, you've fallen out of favor with conservatives. Less than half of them are likely to vote for you. The liberal base appears divided, but you do have a considerable number of supporters there. For better or worse, you certainly aren't popular with nationalists. If you ever had any support from socialists, you've completely lost it now. Unsurprisingly, none of the Bludish poll respondents said they were planning on voting for you. Lastly, we can't expect votes from centrist, non-affiliated voters unless we do something to win them over.
So what do you suggest? Lucian smiled and bowed his head slightly.
Thank you, Mr. President. This may sound like common sense, but a convincing enough campaign can succeed where policies fail. Even if you've opted not to focus on your campaign at the moment, I'd still advise you to seize every chance for exposure that you can.
Yeah, I'll take that into account.
Good. On another note, there is a not insignificant portion of undecided voters who don't care who occupies Maroon Palace as long as the economy is running smoothly. Propping up the economy just ahead of the election is a surefire way to win them over.
It's all in Simon, then.
Partly, yes. Our country seems to be stable so far, but we should avoid further crisis if we want to come out of this term strong. There are some worrying news. The Lotharbird group is up to something. My informant's been talking about frequent meetings happening between the oligarchs. There is one last thing you should know about.
He looked over to the door to make sure it was closed.
I have reason to suspect that Lilius Graf will attempt to challenge you for USP leadership.
How do you know?
I've merely been keeping my ear to the ground, as always. At any rate, if my suspicions are true, you'll need as many allies within the party as possible. Please keep this close to your chest, sir. You know how much power Miss Graf wields in these halls.
Any other advice?
That is everything on my end.
Excellent. Good work. Lucian smiled. I left the room to attend my next meeting. Cool. Alright, well, that's about what the guide says we should be at then. Yeah, it says we should gain plenty of boost in the polling once we finish boosting the economy and if we manage to win the war. So that's hopeful. Alright, let's check out the political overview. Judiciary, we've got... not sure what. Oh, the new Chief Justice. Cool, alright. And got something in the Codex over here. State figures. Gonna be just that new Justice guy again. Nothing too fancy going on over here. Alright, so let's check out the news first. We've got two of them. So first up from the Whole Sword Post, Ovid Gresser will be the new, next Chief Justice. The Supreme Court's 10 Supreme Justices will have a new leader as of tomorrow, Ovid Gresser, the experienced jurist who has previously served in the High Court of Appeals, Whole Sword Court of Criminal Appeals, and Whole Sword District Court, had been chosen by his colleagues to serve in the role of Chief Justice. Justice Gresser is one of the finest legal minds of Swordsman, and his service on the High Court of Appeals has been exemplary. However, it is uncertain if he would be able to face the pressure in replacing such a significant justice like Orso Hawker. And from Swordsman Today, also talking about our new Chief Justice. Justice Ovid Gresser has been elected as the next Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Swordsman by getting the majority of support of the justices. He will succeed the former Chief Justice Orso Hawker, who has served as Chief Justice since 1937. I am honored to be elected by my fellow colleagues, and I look forward to working with them on the important matters and decisions of this very important body, said Justice Gresser in a statement. Nice. Alright, so... oops, what's over here? Almost missed this report. So, from Erzran, polio is controlled inside the Berger region. Minister of Health Pascal Bennewell submitted a heartening report. It states that the polio disease is controlled inside the Berger region. He stated that we had flattened the curve of infection within the Berger region, and with the mandatory vaccine, it will be hard for the disease to spread into other regions within the country. Fantastic. Alright, let me double check, make sure there's no other reports. Doesn't look like it. Alright, so now let's go to this meeting on industrial expansion. Oh, that's not a meeting, that's just, asking what I want to spend money on. Let's see, and the guide says we should invest in agriculture. So let's invest in agriculture. Alright, so leaves us with a new newspaper here from the Lockhaven Times. Government funds the farmers and fishers. The government today has announced a massive investment plan consisting of grants, discounted land sales, and cheap loans to incentivize and support farmers and fishers around the country to increase their productivity. The news is welcomed by many as a helping hand, especially by agricultural voters who have been hit by the recession hard. The initiative, which is one of the largest the country has ever seen since the 1930s, is expected to increase agriculture production and exports to neighboring countries. Cities like Sarna and Volgan with high agriculture production will benefit a lot, while other areas will see massive growth in the years to come. The fertility of these lands will increase. Brilliant. And we got a country overview update thing. Economy, just agriculture expansion program. The program offers up to 10,500 rent to support agricultural entrepreneurs and producers. At the same time, we'll be assisting in the training, market search, market planning, and reimbursing up to 70% of the cost for equipment needed. Fantastic. Alright, and that looks like it's probably the end of the chapter, actually. Well, let's find out here. Yeah, alright, finally heading into the end game here. Chapter 4, Checkmate. Awesome, alright. So, it doesn't look like we have too much going on here, so let's just check out the news. So, from Geopolitico, Hegel would take all the necessary steps. In a televised address, Chancellor Emmerich Hegel claimed the intensive fighting was taking place between the Agnolian forces and the locals of Helgoland, resulting in the massacres of ethnic Vogs living on the island. He portrayed the conflict as a national struggle and compared it to the independence wars of the former colonies in Riga. Hegel said, Vogsland is the guarantor of Helgoland's security would take all the necessary steps to prevent mass atrocities committed against the islanders. Van Horten said in a television interview that Vogslandians must withdraw their harassment squad from the Markian Sea before any diplomatic talks can happen. Alright, so that war is quickly accelerating. So let's head to Whole Sword and... Alright, let's do End of the Day first, because I don't want to piss her off just yet with that. It was raining. A surge dropped me off at home after yet another grueling day of work. The guard held an umbrella over my head as I walked from the car to my front door. Inside, the house is completely dark. I flipped on the light in the kitchen to find a note from Monica. Ciara had called her in for a last-minute women's rights meeting. She dropped Diana off at a friend's and left me some food for reheating. I took the pot out of the fridge. It was filled with an unidentifiable, grayish-looking stew. Evidently, Monica's excellent cooking had been the first casualty of her political career. Screw it, we're just going to order pizza. I called Serge and asked him to pick me up a pizza for dinner. While I was waiting for him, I went into the living room to fix myself a drink. Suddenly, the phone rang. I went back to the kitchen and answered it. Frank's voice was on the other end. Oh, I thought Mom would pick up. Yeah, hello to you too, Frank. Sorry. Hi, Dad. Glad to catch you out of the office. There was a long silence. I got that record you sent me. Not bad for old folks' music. Huh, you take that back. Have you heard anything from Uncle Peter? That's still too painful to talk about. Okay. It's so messed up what he did. So, how's school? Fine. Better than fine. I've actually started seeing someone. Really? What's she like? Actually, Dad, she's Bludish. I'm surprised she'd be interested in the president's son, then. She knows kids aren't just extensions of their parents. Listen, you should try learning sometime. She's told me a bit about what her family's going through back in Berja. Dad, you have to stop this. I'm doing my best, son, but the militants there are making it hard for us. You really don't get it, do you? Maybe I'll bring her over for dinner next week. Maybe once you meet her, you'll understand the harm you're doing. The doorbell rang. Serge was here with my pizza. I have to go. Check on your mother tomorrow. Yeah, okay. Bye, Dad. We both hung up. I let Serge in. The pizza he brought was gargantuan. Serge, would you like to join me for dinner? There's an Honor FC game on today. It would be an honor to watch your team together, sir. There's a reason I bought this massive pizza for seemingly no other reason. I brought the pizza into the living room and opened 2 beers. Serge and I sat down and ate together by the flickering light of the television. Match was already halfway through. Unfortunately, FC Anarcho was losing 2-1 to FC Killsword. I changed the channel. Ah, come on, bro. You gotta finish the match. What a total doinker. Alright. Wow, there's a bunch of stuff that just popped. Alright, let's check country review. What's going on here? Alright, economy. Oh, cool. Starting agricultural zone finished. So the new 30-hectare zone allowed many local farmers to boost agriculture production and created many jobs. Fantastic. Nice. Our economy is maxed out at the moment. Hopefully the budget doesn't bite us too bad, but guess we'll find out. Let's check the report from Narbel. Police overwhelmed in remote cities. Since the deployment of the police forces to combat the unrest, many attacks have occurred in remote cities. Ambushes are rampant and the security forces are being pushed back. Police stations and patrols were the main targets of the militants. Unless reinforcements are provided, the current forces are not enough to control the situation. Fantastic. Alright, we got 2 of them here from Lockhaven. So first up is Fair Trade Commission creates trade regulation. The Fair Trade Commission has begun work in assessing the existing trade irregularities and unfairness. The first act of the Commission will be to create new trade regulations to balance import and export differences to ensure local competition can remain strong. And the Supreme Council of Radio and TV bans content. The Supreme Council of Swordfish Radio and Television announced a ban on HOSTV's talk show program Sweaty Talk and the comedy show Gotta Live With It, making dangerous anti-government propaganda and inciting conflict within society. Brilliant. Sarna, the agricultural zone opens. The Sarna agricultural zone has opened to the public. Long lines of farmers are waiting in lines to apply for new cooperation opportunities. The opening is expected to increase the agricultural output of Sarna by 40%. As per the reports, agricultural workers from nearby cities are also migrating, creating an influx of jobs and investments. Very nice. Alright, let's see if there's a report out of Whole Sword. Yes. Central Bank part of administration. The authority of the Central Bank has been transferred to the Maroon Palace, which means that many monetary actions will be driven by the President of Swordland. The now unshackled economic independence is welcomed by the economic advisors of the palace. Awesome. Alright, there's nothing up north, so let's read the newspapers before we sign that bill. Or veto it, whatever we're doing. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, from the Whole Sword Post. Look like there's 4 of them. So first up, USP conservatives try to obstruct administration. Sources from within the Grand National Assembly have informed us that the conservative wing of the USP seem to be intentionally obstructing President Rain's agenda. From failing to attend committee meetings to delaying bills that the President has attempted to push through, Gloria Tory and her fellow conservatives have no apparent motive other than blocking Rain at every turn. Tory and the President are known to have clashed over the latter's constitutional reforms. Could that have prompted her vindictive attitude? And USP reformists try to obstruct administration. Sources from within the Grand National Assembly have informed us that the reformists in the USP seem to be intentionally obstructing President Rain's agenda. For failing to attend committee meetings to delay bills the President attempted to push through, Alba Clavin has waved no apparent motive other than blocking Rain at every turn. The obstruction has a vindictive feel to it, but it is unknown what the President did to prompt this. Cool, it's basically the exact same article. Alright, election campaign ramps up across Swordland. The election campaigning efforts have started to pick up speed across Swordland. To become the 5th president of Swordland, the candidates began delivering the speeches at rallies and conventions while the party flags were flying in major cities. Campaign centers are busy with scheduling and organizing events. The exciting times of election are approaching. The majority of the cities, USP appears to be the most prominent, whereas PFJP follows behind along with NFP. It would be thrilling to see the presidential race renew once again for the fast-approaching elections. And ladies' bill struck down. Families in Swordland can breathe easier as controversial Women's Liberation Act, proposed by Minister of Education Ciara Waldo with the blessing of First Lady Monica Rain, completely failed to pass. This bill, which would have upended Sword's traditional values by forcing undue burdens on women in the name of equality, was supported by the President but struck down in the Assembly, showing Anton Rain who wears the trousers in this government. Okay. And Swordland today. Former VP not seen since dismissal. Former Vice President Peter Vectren has not been seen in public in months. The reasons for Vectren's dismissal are yet to be made public, but President Rain quickly replaced him with the new Vice President. There have been many conflicting rumors about Vectren's removal from office, but those so close to the former VP claim they have not been able to reach him, and his villa earlier has been empty for months. Nice. Alright. Wait, okay, I'm really confused. A newspaper article said that the Women's Liberation Act was voted down by the Grand National Assembly. Okay, interesting. Alright. Well, whatever. Either way, we're vetoing that, so I don't really care. Okay, got an obstructionist achievement for that. Not sure why, but okay. Alright. We got journal entry just saying we vetoed that. Coolio. Alright. So, we've got a human dignity bill. The newly proposed bill will amend Section 3 of the 1923 Legal Transactions Act that allowed the legalization of transactions which occur in non-registered businesses or other entities like single persons if the parties delivered accurate documentation of the financial authority. This created a legal loophole for prostitution. The Human Dignity Bill will protect common decency and prevent the violation of moral principles that occur in the act of prostitution by making it an illegal offense, which perpetrators is punishable by law. Alright, and we're also supposed to veto this, again, because it screws up our budget. Okay. It's like nothing else, so we pop back to Whole Sword for a discussion on the current internal affairs. A storm was on the horizon outside my window. The inside of my office, however, was very warm and cozy. I straightened myself on the sofa next to the fireplace and looked at Mansoon, who was sitting on the couch across from me. He was here representing all 8 Bludish members of the Assembly. He had dark creases under his eyes from his lack of sleep. As I said earlier, we've been working on this bill for a long time, Mr. President. I've always done my best to represent my people, only to keep getting blocked in the Assembly. We can't have the same happen again. I've always brought my people's concerns to the Assembly and raised my voice whenever our rights are in question. All we ask is that the Assembly at least have the proper discussion. All that we get is disrespect, MPs shouting racial slurs at us, not allowing us to speak. It's not only the National Front, it's the USP. He sighed. I don't even remember a time when Miss Tory allowed me to finish a speech. The Assembly does not take us independence seriously, and we need your help. Okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Okay, so apparently we need to side with him and do a whole bunch of stuff to help the Blues, which is what I figured. Because they're apparently pretty important to the war effort. So, let's go with this one. I understand you, Mr. Leek. This discrimination against you is unacceptable. That's where your help would be very valuable. He gestured at the papers I had received from him earlier. All we need is your support for our bill. It's time to undo the mistakes of the Swordfish state against its citizens. I only ask you to help us make the single step for good instead of staying idle. Our proposal aims to form a committee for minority rights, and it will lift the ban on the Bludish Freedom Party, as well as giving amnesty to all who are arrested for having ties to it. Families are still waiting for them in Berger. It's not Turkey and Soul's era anymore. It's time we tried to clean up the taint left in our history. I agree with you completely, Mr. Leek. Thank you for representing this noble cause. Glad to hear it, Mr. President. He rubbed his chin. So we have your support? Yes, all form of the Commission signing proposal as a decree. I got an achievement for that, too. We are all citizens of Swordwind. Oh, thank you, Mr. President. He rose up and walked up to me. He extended a hand. It means a lot, thank you. We shook hands. Suddenly, we heard a knock on the door and Lucian entered.
Sir, I'm sorry, I thought your meeting was over.
Mr. President's already decided. We can call it over, Mr. Gallard. I was already leaving.
Great, then we must go to the meeting room, sir. One of our new campaign advisors has some plans for the election. He's waiting for us.
Alright, yeah, let's go. Alright. Country overview. We've got Minority Rights Act. Section 1 establishes a Minority Rights Commission to advocate for the rights of all minorities living in Swordwind. Section 2 revokes a ban on the Bludish Freedom Party and any other Bludish political party. Section 3 gives amnesty to every Bludish prisoner who is arrested for the past separatist actions. Cool. Okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so if we side with them, they'll help us out in the war by not blocking Valen as they try to come to our aid. It is good. Alright. Check out this report from Estord. Rumberg plane warned inside airspace. A lone Umbergian warplane violated our airspace by entering the territory of Swordland for 2 minutes and left after issuing a radio message. It's only slightly suspicious. Okay. Looks like we've got a whole bunch of new little tax acts here, so let me pull that back up. Okay, so let's start with the Alcohol Tax Act. The GNA proposes the ATA to socially deter the excessive amount of alcohol consumption that has arisen in the general populace and to increase tax revenues. Section 1 will impose a 20% tax on the sale of all alcohol products sold in the country. Section 2 makes local alcohol production that is destined for export exempt from taxation. Section 3 establishes a 25% import tax on foreign alcohol products which come from countries that have no trade regulations imposed on these types of goods. Okay. So the guide says to veto the alcohol tax. So that'll boost public opinion. So let's finish all three of these, then we'll check out the newspapers. Alright, and then the Fair Luxury Tax Act is next. Then the Assembly proposes an amendment to Section 6 of the Tax Code of 1949. The FLTA seeks to improve the fairness of the taxation system and increase tax revenues. Section 1 sets a 15% tax rate, which will be imposed on items of the luxury goods class determined by the Ministry of Economy. This encompasses jewelry, furs, sports cars, yachts, private planes. Section 2 of the amendment will establish 10% estate tax for the conditions of purchase, sale, and transfer of property, in particular in inheritance situations. Ooh, okay. Guide says go ahead and sign this one, so we'll sign that guy. And fund political youth group. The possibility of funding political youth group has arisen. This could serve us to extend our ideological reach and even boost our election efforts. The presidency would privately funnel a large amount of government funds to the youth wing in exchange for loyalty and support. And it says to basically use that tax act to fund this. So, there we go. Okay. Let's check the country overview here. So, the economy, just the Luxury Tax Goods Act. Or Luxury Goods Tax, sorry. Let's hit the newspapers. We got 4 of them. So, from Whole Sword Post, Young Swords promise to protect ballots. With the election looming on the horizon, the Young Swords organization rallied its members to voting places across Swordland. With the threat of millennialism and neighboring countries trying to intervene in our election, we need to unite against them. They are amassing to try to take our democracy when we are at the lowest during a recession. The Young Swords, an organization, has always been fighting for strong Swordland. With them protecting our democracy, we will be able to maintain the values our founder Tarkin Soul fought all those years ago. That was a very awkwardly worded paragraph there. Anyway, luxury tax is now taxable. The Assembly signed an amendment known as the Fair Luxury Tax Act. This bold choice seeks to impose a tax act on personal items, including jewelry, coats, and cars. Believing that necessary products or loving gifts are all considered luxury products it is the hard reality we are facing under the Reagan administration, as they are determined to steal your hard-earned money out from under you. Coolio. Alright, from Swordland today, don't touch your alcohol prices. Anson Reign has vetoed the Alcohol Tax Act that would have seen alcohol prices skyrocket across the country. This would have included a 20% tax on sale of alcohol products and 25% import tax on foreign alcohol products. Local bars and liquor stores would be breathing a sigh of relief to see this bill vetoed. And from the Lockhaven Times, Young Swords memberships double. According to recent activities, there seems to be an increase in Young Swords members. Thus far, we estimate that the amount of Young Swords members has doubled. After the interview with the group's spokesperson, he confirmed the news. He stated, "We are receiving lots of donations from citizens across the country. This is a massive grassroots movement. Hardworking swords are asking for their rights. We are the voice against the plague of millennialism and the aliens from neighboring countries. Yet many suspect that the NFP is funding the Young Swords. Many else conspire that it was the president himself that backed the group." Fantastic. Apparently that costs us 2 economic development points, but that's okay, I hope. Alright. So we have an emergency call and escalating situation. But I think we're going to have to stop here for today. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.